Hi, Final Fantasy fam. This your girl Stygian Stilettos Gamer, aka Stygian Sis. I have with me the great Jamie L. Cruz. I'll introduce you to him in just a moment. Jamie, how are you doing?
Yeah. Good as can be. Thanks. How are you?
Awesome. I'm doing great, just powering through. It's almost spring. I'm excited. Lots of new games coming out this year. Just
Yeah.
yeah, living a good life. We're going to be doing an interview
Yeah.
today with the author of Melodies of Life, a Final Fantasy IX retrospect and analysis, and again by Jamie L. Cruz. This book came out in 2021, right? I believe
Yeah,
so.
Johnny turned the bell.
Yes, January 2021. Great. And I will tell you where you can find the book at the end of this video, but definitely recommend you picking this up. I haven't played Final Fantasy 9. Let me think. I tried to platinum it about 2 years ago. I got one trophy left. and
Oh,
reading this book again this week, it was like, oh, it just all came flooding back to me. So if you're definitely if you're an OG fan, but if you're just interested in general, you've recently played it and just want a different perspective, I highly recommend this book. So, Jamie, you do a forward in it, and like with all gamers, we all come into Final Fantasy in our own ways. So I found yours pretty intriguing because you were almost kind of a fan of it before you were a fan of it. So why don't you tell us about that?
that's a fun way of putting it, isn't it? A fan of it before I knew I was a fan of it. Yeah, it comes in with the music, really. So like it was. I can't remember exactly how I ended up listening to music from different Final Fantasy scores. But the LimeWire pirating days had something to do with it. Um,
Yes, for
But
sure.
that was my introduction, like not the games themselves, like the Final Fantasy series, but the music. So I think it was the Final Fantasy VII main theme, um, and 1,000 words from 10-2 that I distinctly remember thinking, "What's this from? I want more of this." And definitely going down the seven route, I found the amazing soundtracks behind the games. I was interested, and obviously I came to Kingdom Hearts before I came to Final Fantasy, and as soon as I saw Vivi on the box art for Final Fantasy 9, I'm like, that's where I'm starting.
No, yeah.
Um, it wasn't quite literally because I played Crisis Core before that,
Mm-hmm.
which again was a good attention grab. But yeah, that was my draw to Final Fantasy 9 before even knowing much more about it. Was yeah, that's where Vivi comes from. I'm going to play that one. And yeah, I ended up playing it in like three or four different houses until I finished it. I went through a weird time where I was kind of without a place to call home, and yeah,
Wow.
I have fond memories of just like that being a constant. Is working through my first proper mainline Final Fantasy, um, and yeah, since I played it, I think must be a dozen times now since then. And yeah, it's just one of, if not my favorite game.
Yeah, and it's funny how things kind of line up in your life between what's going on with what you kind of attach yourself to media wise, because you said,
Mm,
you mentioned that you were kind of in between places for a while and no place to
yeah,
call home. And then I noticed that you talked about being struck by the title cards at the beginning of Final Fantasy IX. And that song, I believe, is called a place to call home. Am I right? I believe so.
yeah,
But there's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's good.
and so and then you look at the themes of the characters, like Zidane, for instance, finding a place where they belong. I mean, that's a big theme of the game. So yeah, I I,
Yeah,
I just love how that kind of ties in together. Yeah, Final Fantasy IX was also my first, so I. It wasn't VV necessarily, but I was playing Final Fantasy VII because my brother wanted me to, and I was like, oh, I hate these graphics. It's like Final Fantasy IX looks so cute, so my 12-year-old son, I
yeah.
was like, oh, this was cute, so I'm gonna play it. Whoo! I was not ready for the emotional roller coaster that this game would be, but I was immediately hooked. Just so I can definitely relate. It grips you from the beginning. Whew. Yeah.
Mm. He's got that bait and switch with the chibi models, and then it's just like, oh, you ready to learn about how hard life is?
Yes, that's the artwork is so pretty and whimsical. You're just like, oh, this is gonna be a nice little
Mm,
experience. Ooh, you're gonna learn the meaning of life with this one.
mm,
All right, so well, speaking of what it means to be alive, I wanted to go through a couple of parts. So just to give an overall of Jamie's book, of course, you have the introduction, and then goes through different, I guess you would call them sections. So the one we're going to start with is what it means to be alive. But you go through the relationships, you go through the music, the story. I mean, you really get granular with it. And yeah, just it's a great read from beginning to end. So, all right, let's
Thank you.
start with. Oh, you're welcome. So let's start with. Here it is. Authenticity and authenticity and the artificial. Now,
Mhm.
what struck me about this part in particular, because you have these great openings where you pull the person in to read the rest of that section, and you start off by talking about the physiological versus the psychological that the struggles that the characters are going through.
Mhm.
And I had never really put it that way in my mind, but it definitely is spot on. So you mentioned that Zidane, or do you say Zidane or Zidane? I
I've
don't.
gone through years of conditioning from saying Zidane to just be, seeing the sort of the rage that you can provoke in some people from that, and it's just like, okay, Zidane, okay, you know what? No, canonically, I know that's the way it was meant to be said. So now I say Zidane, but I never correct anyone. It's the same
Yeah,
thing
and
with
I've never corrected
sinusitis.
myself exactly. It's like I always say Zidane, but I'm like, okay, maybe I should say Zidane and be fancy today. Okay. So yeah, you say Zidane, Vivi, and Garnett. They're going through the
Hmm.
physiological issues, whereas Steiner, Amaranth, Freya, they're going through more of the physical. So you're talking about this kind of internal versus external, but if you don't mind, just kind of explain to the listeners what you mean by those differences, and then I'd like to talk a little bit more about the characters after that.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, it's not to say that it's a clear divide with some characters have like physiological struggles over psychological or vice versa. It's more that those one side or the other is more dominant. So you have Garnet, for example, is a good example, who has her body has been changed and her character is kind of reeling from that, even though she doesn't realize why. There's the physical presence that she identifies herself with, putting her role aside, is not who she thinks she is. The person she thinks she is dead. It's the original Princess Garnet died, you know,
Mm-hmm.
well before. Well, not well before, around the same time as Garnet arrived in Alexandria, right?
Yes.
Whereas
Mm-hmm.
you've got the more deeper psychological confrontations that the characters go through, and Freya's a good example of that. Her role doesn't change. Her position in the world doesn't really change, but like her entire motivation for being, as far as it's presented to us, is basically I must find Safratli. And
Yes.
then as soon as she does and realizes that he has no idea who she is, she's questioning her motivation. She's questioning whether love is a good motivation at all. If what she imagines to be love to be actually you know
Mm-hmm.
worth anything at all. And like part of the strength of her character is how quickly she rallies from that. But that reserved character is kind of like her holding all of these things and recalibrating. That's very much an internal struggle. And then of course you've got Vivi, who's just like, I'm a murder doll prototype, um, but also packed in with the, oh yeah, I'm alive. What does that mean? Oh, I'm going to die really soon. What the fuck does that mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely,
So
because he
yeah,
doesn't
that's
even know
kind
what
of what.
death is. Yeah. Before he finds out he's dying. Yeah. God.
Exactly. So that's
Oh.
kind of what I meant about making that distinction between, that sort of physical presence versus like a more internalized existential
Mm-hmm.
conflict.
Absolutely. 100% agree, especially Freya. Freya really stuck with me because, yeah, she reminds me of Oron. Now, I played 9 first, but I
Mm,
always make these parallels in my mind between what I call the golden age of Final Fantasy. So I always think about 7 through 10 when I'm looking
yeah,
at
yeah.
one. Oron, he had a purpose, protect Yuna's father, and then
Yeah.
his whole world blew up around him, and then he had to come up with a different purpose, you know, and he did go through this questioning of what, you know, what really mattered and all of that. And I definitely see that with Freya because, yeah, her goal was find my lost love, and when she
Mm.
does, it's just her world is torn apart because she has spent her life a large part of her life looking for him, and it was for what? But you're right.
Yeah.
I like the way that you talk about her resolve to basically survive and thrive. And hey, my story may have ended tragically, she thinks in her mind, but I'm going to make sure that the people who are causing all these atrocities no longer get to ruin anyone else's lives. Almost. That's kind of how I read it when you were going through it. And oh man, that Sir Fratley thing kind of hit home for me because I had a friend who had amnesia, and it is a weird feeling to have a whole history with somebody, and then you look them in the eyes and you could tell they don't recognize you. So like even
Yeah.
though that happened to me later in life, like Freya's story definitely hits home for me now, even more so than ever. So yeah, I love that. Let's get on. And Vivi. I mean, you can't play Final Fantasy 9 and not be completely just from the beginning, you know. And I'll put spoiler alerts on this video, obviously.
Mm.
But
That's probably wise.
yes. So I'd like for
I
you
think.
to elaborate a little bit more on Vivi. What grips me about Vivi's story is not that he dies. He's not the first character to die. He's not going to be the last
Mm.
character to die. But it's almost like when you go to see one of those movies about someone with terminal cancer and you're just hoping the whole time, like, no, this can't really be real. This is supposed to end well. This is, you know, something's going to turn around for him. And he
Mm.
and the player, you're having this moment throughout the game where it's just like a slow decline. Like, no, this really isn't going to end any differently, you know. But seeing, yeah, just talk more about what stood out to you with Vivi's journey and in relation to his physiological journey. I'm sorry, his psychological, his physical journey.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I mean, it basically, the case of existentialism in Final Fantasy IX embodied in the little black mage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like it's interesting. I think at some point early in the book, I do have to just sort of stop and write a section on VV and be like, it is impossible in a lot of the different areas of the book to actually contextualize what the subject without referencing VV. And it is, because talking about authenticity, talking about like the meaning of life and things like that is Vivi's journey in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
He's aware, and like you what only a few hours into the game when you come to Dali, and you find the Black Mage factory, and Vivi's just like, is that what I am? And starts asking these really big hard questions of himself. Just and the companions that he's got that barely know him, and they're just starting to trust him. And I mean, Zidane from the start and Steiner, yeah, they've accepted him, but in terms of where they go, he's been treated very differently. He's been treated like a freak, and then as an enemy when Bran starts terrorizing other countries using the Black Mage soldiers. He's having to like lean on people as he gets to know them and rely on their knowledge and their experience to sort of contextualize what he's seeing and learning.
Yeah.
And it's kind of interesting to see him go through the game and do that a little less. Like he still values that sense of camaraderie and community, but he's learning how to learn. He's actually sort of attributing his own meaning to his
Mm-hmm.
existence and what he thinks is right. And it is really, really interesting to see a character who has not really been conscious of their own being for very long, not too long before the game starts, to suddenly being told right in the middle, like, you're going to die sometime soon.
Yeah.
And for us, the player, that's like, okay, we have that year benchmark,
Mm-hmm.
you know, uh, 288 in the village says, oh, the prototype will last a little longer. But there's that sense of proximity, but not knowing exactly when that there's just a tension all the way through that you can see Vivi carrying.
Oh, definitely.
But at the same time, like we're talking about Freya having a tough time. She has all of her struggles in quick succession. Found Fratley. Fratley has no idea who she is. Bermesi has been destroyed. Bermesi has been destroyed. Clara gets destroyed. She's suddenly an endangered species. Like that's
Oh
that's a
yeah.
lot.
Yeah.
But this game, like from Dali onwards, is basically just stamping down on Vivi time and time again, sort of invalidating him. So no, you're a weapon of war. You're not really a person. You're not really alive. You're not worth anything, and it just never really stops. Um, so it is kind of heartbreaking, but at the same time, like heartwarming to see Vivi get up again and again and
Yeah.
be crushed less each time and actually fight back. And I think that really starts on the cargo ship when he sees Black
Mm,
Waltz 3 just murder all these Black Mage soldiers that, Vivi's just like, I'm trying to identify with these things, or recognize where I stand in relation to these things. But there's that scene where like the glass smashes in
yeah.
the cargo ship over his face in the animated scene, and it
Hmm.
is just such a good replacement for a facial expression for Vivi. I
Oh
could talk for
man,
a long time
I
about
know.
Vivi.
I'm sitting here like all these thoughts are running through my. I would even say Sleeping Forest, and what you just sort of what you talked about in general, like the way he keeps picking himself back up. I think the reason he's able to get so close to them so quickly is because they're always there to help pick him up. Like Steiner, I forget exactly where he says this, but well, like when his friend, when they really need him, he will jump in. Like even if he isn't brave enough for himself, he'll be brave for others. So like in the Sleeping Forest, or like there's a part where Steiner says basically, "I need you, Vivi," and he's like, "Okay,
Mm.
I'll do my best." Even with everything he's going through, he always wants to try to do his best for other people. Oh man,
Mm.
it's just, and I like I there's almost this yin yang like when you talk about Freya, you have a person who has all the time in the world to live and nothing to do with it, and then you have Vivi
Yeah.
who just wants to live and wants to fulfill so many dreams he's had in his life, and he has no time to do it. Oh, I don't
Mm.
know who wrote this, but I mean, I know it's Square Enix, but man, they really put a lot of thought into this. And when you think about the fact that all these games had to have been, they come out within like a 5 year period, and all these games had to have been being created at the same time. It is amazing the
Mm.
stories that they were able to tell during that. Whew,
Yeah.
awesome. All of these feel like deep subjects. All
Yeah,
right.
I mean, we did touch the main pressure point in right out of the gate, didn't we, with Vivi?
I
Because
know.
he's sort of branches into a lot of different things.
He really does. He almost in one character encompasses, even though he's the most hollow character, literally, he also encompasses like nearly every theme in the game in some manner. It is
Hmm.
just crazy, yeah.
Yeah,
But and I will definitely be returning to him when we get to Kuja. That's for
yeah.
sure. I did want to say something quick about Eco and Quina. What you had to say about them? I actually do agree with you on Eco's evolution throughout the game. It's not as pronounced because there's so much other crazy stuff going on that maybe in
Hmm.
another game she might have stood out a little more, but in this one it's just you have to be kind of paying attention to see it. But I like that you talked about her transition when when she finally comes across other people after all those years just living with Muggles, and oh, actually, we'll get a little bit into that in a second, and then also with losing Mog, and I agree that I wasn't. It felt like they gave you this big twist, and then it just kind of it just kind of went away. I
Yeah,
didn't think they stuck the landing well on that. Yeah.
it's a double-edged sword because as a player, it's just like you're supposed to be hit by this narrative turn. It's just like, oh, she's lost the best friend she's had all her life. But as a player, it's like, I got a cool new summon. Um, like, also, we're on to bigger, better things. Come on.
They gave us something good. Her world is devastating. We're like, yay, new summon. And then Quina, what is really their, Quina is who you expect them to be, for the most part.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think,
I had someone actually talk to me recently about this. They sent me a message to sort of say that they enjoyed the book and everything, and asked again mentioned Queen. Like, have you thought about the sort of Chinese culture that might have inspired the character and the behavior and mannerisms? I'm like, Now that you mention it, and
Mm.
it wasn't so much the Chinese culture as the fact that I can't remember exactly what they said, but they mentioned Buddhism. I'm like,
Mm.
there is probably some really Zen message behind Queena's like story that I've just completely overlooked. Um, but yeah, I can kind of see that. You know, the eight ways of the gourmand or the eight spices. I don't know. I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there's something there, but that can be something to look out for the next time I
Yeah,
play
maybe
it.
part two. Who knows?
Yeah.
um, uh, yeah, and there's also something to be appreciated in a game that's this deep and so much going on. I think you mentioned almost comic relief, I believe. I think
Hmm.
that kind of wasn't more just like this. You don't have to worry about really digging in. There may be something deeper with Queena, but you can just enjoy Queena as is. There's no Queen is just enjoying what he or she, whatever. I don't know. They have never decided since 1990 or 2000 what we're supposed to call
Yeah.
Queena, but I go with they. Yeah, they
Mm.
they are just a breath of fresh air almost. Everybody else is worried about A, B, and C, and Queen is just like, yeah, I just want to eat some frogs.
It's like there's nothing to eat here. Bye.
It's like when you come across your dog, you're having a bad day, and then your dog just, wants to sniff you and get petted, and it's like, okay, this is really nice. Okay, and let's see. So to go to Zidane, Vivi, and Iko, I see. I don't know how to say anybody's name, but this one clearly. Uh,
I've heard Eco, Ico, and Aco. I don't know which one it is, to be absolutely honest with
I'm
you.
just gonna say Iko. If hey, if Essie wants to tell me what it is, I'll change.
Yeah,
Okay, so
I know there's yeah there is yeah. It doesn't matter.
so Zidane and Vivi, so they had that talk in Maiden Suri, and you had mentioned you called the section either you do or you don't, and
Hmm.
we largely kind of went over this already. Like despite knowing that death is approaching Vivi, he still continues to choose to live. He doesn't choose to use his time for evil or even though he has some moments of self-loathing, he still tries to pick himself up, and that's kind of what Zidane was. I feel like was trying to, but I'd like you to put it in your own words. What struck you about this that you wanted to make a section about it? This talk that they have. The either
Well,
you do or you don't.
specifically in Medane Sari, like I think it was just sort of a centerpiece for an
Mm.
idea, and it's very much in line with Zidane's personality and his raison d'etre. It's just, yeah, you've got two choices: you do something or you don't do something.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny how that bleeds into a lot of other things that actually, can be counterintuitive. That black and white worldview is exactly what Steiner and Amaranth have to overcome. It's not a case of either or. But like in terms of Zidane, his character card's virtue. It's like I don't need a reason to help people. It's either I do or I don't, and he feels compulsed to help people. And there's that whole section in the book that goes into the sort of self-esteem and things like that are wrapped into why he might be in that position. That lack
Yeah.
of self-worth. It's just like, no, I will borderline neglect my own mental and emotional well-being. I won't think about the big things. I will play the hero. I'll rush in to help other people. So it
Mm-hmm.
felt fitting that this would be the kind of advice he gives. It's
Yeah.
like, hey, you're going to die, but you know what? You're going to live for a while as well. So are you going to live? Or are you not? Like, is how that conversation kind of breaks
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
It's
pretty
just like
much.
he can, but the thing is, like, the big question that we're sort of implicitly given as players, like in the Black Mage Village, when Vivi's learning this information, is like Vivi has a choice now. He's found somewhere that he could actually call home. It's like a community of Black Mages that are aware. They resent having being used as tools for war, and they're eager to learn about life and how to build something for themselves rather than being used. And Zidane and Garnet have that conversation about whether Vivi will come with them in the morning when they leave. And I think again, that is another case of either he comes or he stays.
Yeah.
There is some there are a lot. You can break a lot of things down into an either or situation, and I think it isn't so much about the situation; it's about the person who's actually looking at the world that way. And for Zidane, it's the answer is always you do. Why
Mm-hmm.
would he not? And the one example of when he doesn't, so there are two, and they're his the lowest points for his character. You've got when the situation where Bronze died, and Garnet is going for about to be crowned queen,
Mm-hmm.
and Zidane has the opportunity to sort of encourage her and give her support, and he just says nothing,
Yeah.
which is so out of character for Zidane. He's always got something cheeky or witty to say, um, and it's the
Always.
one time he doesn't. And he gets immediately challenged for that. It's just like, why didn't you say anything? And then that's one of those situations where he's like, well, I didn't. I could, but I would have been lying, so I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
The other, of course, is Pandemonium, when he gets offered help and support from his friends and he pushes them away. Again,
Uh,
they're the two lowest points for him. But when he is actually looking at his own well-being and what he wants and how he feels, so there's an interesting correlation there.
yeah.
I've forgotten actually where I was going with this, but yeah, you see my point. I mean,
That's the problem with talking about Final Fantasy 9. Everything you mentioned, strays into five other thoughts because it's just so much to unpack. Oh yeah,
it
but it,
does. This is why the book is here, to sort of pick them apart and compartmentalize them and present them in a nice, orderly way. Because I mean,
absolutely.
we strayed quite away from. Tell us about the conversation that they had in Maiden Sarim, like within 30 seconds. I'm away.
Like, that's all right. That's all right. I'm having a good time. Because yeah, you
Yeah.
went into raison d'etre, and that was the next topic. So, what? Let's see. I did like how you mentioned that they have the game is where you can you can have an assumption of what these characters' roles are going to be and kind of what you can expect from them
Mm.
on the surface, but then in reality, and including really more what they expect from themselves, what they expect their role to be. So Garnet, I'm the queen of Alexandra. I like this. My role, I'm royalty. I'm supposed to be the noble one that always thinks of my people first, never thinking of myself. Blah blah blah. And then the reality is her her life is a lie, her identity's been stolen from her, and she can't
Yeah.
control her
She's been
emotions to the
walking
point where
twice over.
mm-hmm, and she can't control her emotions to the point where she becomes mute. So that is one
Yeah.
thing about the storytelling I always love with the storytelling during this time of Final Fantasy. They really break your expectations of what you are going to expect. She actually reminds me a lot of Yuna, um, in that sense, because she has this sense of duty, this sense of honor,
Mm.
that she always puts above what she wants. And yeah,
Yeah.
so Garnet is a very selfless character. I just love Garnet.
That's
I don't know where
that's
I
a
was
really
going with
interesting.
that.
That's actually a really interesting comparison. And I was just getting ready to sort of like being like, oh, sure. And then I was thinking, oh, if you count the entire, like, if you count 10-2 as well, like,
Mm.
as part of Yuna's journey, like, you know what? I did the whole pilgrimage thing. We kind of defied and killed God. We did that bit. And now I'm a treasure hunter and I like guns now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, okay. If you want to go the full arc, it's like, yeah, okay. Like, I think that Garnet is more compartmentalized. It's neater.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of see now how you compare Yuna at the beginning of Final Fantasy X to Yuna at the end of 10-2. Yeah, fair enough. I
Mm.
see
Oh
that.
yeah, yeah. I didn't even think of this too. Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Because we don't get to see the aftermath of Garnet anyway. You know what I mean? We just see her read that was Zidane, and then boop, the end. We don't know what she was gonna do after that. She could have ran off and became a treasure hunter too. We have no idea.
I would play the shit out of that sequel. Garnet just grows up and being like, yeah, I'm a treasure hunter now. Like, I've abandoned. Like, yeah, I mean, one of my favorite things, like, with the symbolism and stuff with Garnet, because obviously her whole deal is with identity and, like,
Hmm.
her responsibilities and stuff.
She has
It's
three
like
names. Hmm. She even has three
I
names.
mean, you
Like
say
she can't
three.
even come up with
I
a
was
name.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure there's a section in here where I break it down. She has like six. There's six different ways to refer to her or something. Some of them are a bit jokey, but
Yeah,
anyway,
something
you'll have to read
Alexandros
the book.
17,000. Yeah, I always forget her
Um,
title, but she has that huge title. And then you have Princess Garnet, you have Dagger, you have just Garnet, you have Sarah. It's like, okay, girl, I need you
yeah,
to pick a name. I don't know
but
what to
like
call her.
you like you have this really like emotional, like powerful ending to the game that is just wonderful. But it's the thing that I always remember like most about that whole scene is just before she Garnet reaches Zidane, she's charging through the crowd and she loses the royal pendant, but then she also like physically takes off her crown and throws it aside
Mm-hmm.
and like just throws herself and it's just like that's good. That is like there is nothing more apt for like throwing away symbols of like role and station and actually just being like here I am as a person.
Yes.
um and it was just like yes, this is where things cut off really nicely, like such yeah.
Absolutely. She
I
she let
do
go. She let go of the facade. She let go of oh, I'm the queen and all this.
yeah.
Well, like I was saying, when you like we don't know what Garnet would have done after, because she literally she was looking at her place in life and the boy she loves, and she was like, forget
Mm,
it, I'm out. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
I don't care what the crowd thinks of me. I'm going after who I want. I love that about her.
yeah, which gets a standing O for her efforts, so
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. All right. I actually want to talk about Steiner some, because I just love Steiner. He is a very he can get a little annoying every once in a while with
mm,
how animated he always gets, but in a good way though. He's quirky, but he's serious, and you, even though you can't directly relate, you understand his struggle. And I like so what you go through in a knight's in your portion of knight's duty. Steiner prides himself, and so kind of notes I put here is Steiner prides himself on being loyal but constantly plagued by sort of not being able to live up to Beatrix, having that conflict because he's in love with her, but also she's his direct rival. And whereas he comes to terms with the fact that something is really wrong earlier than she does. There's nothing he can do to really stop her, even though he sees she's going down the wrong path and all that. Yeah, it has a really interesting story, from thinking that he's one of the good guys to realizing, no, I've been being used for evil. And
yeah,
having to choose between his queen and his princess, which is for a knight is an impossible task. Just gives thoughts about like Steiner, and just kind of what inspired your a knight's duty portion a bit in the book.
yeah. I mean, I think it gets boiled down to sort of a question of fealty, doesn't it? And there's a lot of direct correlations I draw to Beatrix because she goes through a very similar path, but there's also quite a few similarities with the things that Garnet struggles with. And I think you were saying it can be hard to relate to Steiner, but it isn't as tough to relate to what Garnet's going through,
Mm-hmm.
which is there are a lot of similar things. These feelings of obligation, of duty, of having to put the needs of others, the needs of the kingdom, and what's right ahead of what you believe in, and sort of displacing any kind of desire that doesn't mesh with those. Um, so, like I think the thing that sort of brought this on was the concept of agency, and it's one of the things I do respect Garnet for as a character. Is the fact that she is constantly fighting for that sense of agency, for being able to like she struggles with wondering how she should be able to behave within certain parameters or within a certain role, but she's always actively trying to make a decision that she can live with, and making sure that if something's not right that she's addressing it, and that's part of her whole journey. And as I said, the end of which is basically discarding anything symbolic of any kind of role or station to just be herself.
Mm-hmm.
um and I think that conflicts directly with Steiner, because the point, like, he's taken fealty to the point, and so has Beatrix, that it is a case of any kind of agency or like individualistic desire is shoved down. It's like it doesn't matter what I want. It doesn't matter what I think. I am a tool of the kingdom. I'm a tool of the queen. I have a job to do, and it's to follow orders and protect the royal family. Um, and it is kind of interesting to see the lengths that they go to on two very different journeys. Steiner obviously following Garnet and being like, no, 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 you're not getting away from me. I will follow you across the entire planet. And you are coming home. Whereas Beatrix is, sort of more directly under Bran's thumb, but also a more powerful figure. Um, but she obviously has. I think as soon as Steiner leaves with Garnet, Beatrix starts. That's when her journey starts. What's Steiner thinking? What's and it sort of devolves from looking, I suppose, looking down on him in a way. I think is the implication to wondering if actually he knows something or has intuited something that she hasn't. With the
Yeah.
irony being that she's the one that actually breaks first. She's the one that, when they both are presented with the fact that, Bran is going to execute Garnet, Beatrix is the one who says first, she literally raises her sword to the queen. It's like, no, not happening. Before Steiner's like, no, 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 there must be an explanation. Beatrix is like, no, there really isn't. And it's
Yeah.
interesting that
Yeah.
the source of that, of Beatrix kind of coming around and starting to feel guilty for basically war crimes, is the guy who needed to see Beatrix be like, oh, the most feared, general, the most feared warrior in possibly the world is basically saying, no, you're wrong, and there is more to life than this duty that we share.
Yeah, absolutely.
Uh, it's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's a really interesting. It's really interesting to see how the stories interact and overlap, despite the fact that two characters don't actually spend that much time together for the majority of the game, but they are thinking. So
Yeah, you're seeing two characters who, in the grand scheme of things, carry the same role. You know,
mm,
fealty to the queen, to the royal family, no matter what. I mean, you think of um, how people are just taught in the army. Putting country before self, no matter what, things like that. And I feel
yeah,
like that's kind of the same because you can think of a kingdom as a country essentially, and so they both have been taught it doesn't matter what you want, this is your duty in life. And I think part of Beatrix might have been started to waver because she's like, why would, like, I've known Steiner, all he does is think about what's best for the royal family. So if he's wavering, what, I think that's also part of what's going on in her head, because I
mm,
think she knows what the queen is doing is crazy. But then she's
yeah,
like, but she's like, but my queen can't be wrong. But then I'm looking at a person who is me in a sense, and
yeah,
he's looking me in the eye saying, "What are you doing?" And so yeah, it's interesting how they play back and forth with each other because I think he still um appreciates her loyalty to the queen. He
mm,
understands it, but he's figured out sooner than she has that something is a little off, little off with the
yeah. I
queen.
mean, it's interesting to think about. If Steiner hadn't left it, if the two of them were both stationed at the castle, or even working, in tandem under Bran, how much more would they have done between them, unquestioningly?
Ugh.
It's very much like that sort of wartime thing. It's like, well, no, I'm doing what I'm told, and also the other people around me are doing this thing. I'm going to do it as well. I'm not stepping out of line, or there's an expectation, there's an audience of peers, not just underlings. Um, so it is, again, that distance is really key.
Yeah,
Not
absolutely.
only for the romantic element, but for them to actually come to this realization independently and have that realization basically at the exact same time in the story is wonderful.
It really is. And the last thing I'll say about this is when you mentioned the end of the game, you remember Garnet sees Zidane and she goes to turn around and they both stop her, but then they both open the
Mm.
door so she can go. And I think
Yeah.
that's a little nod to the type of relationship they're going to have with their new queen. Is because they know
Mm.
she needs to be the person that she is. Like you've been saying,
Mm.
she like, yes, she will do her duty to her country, but at the same time, she is a young girl, a young, strong, determined woman with her own path to walk, and they may not always agree with it, but they're going to be there to support her path because they know that she is going to do what's right. She went after her own mother to do what was right, so they
Mm.
trust her judgment in a way that I don't think they ever trusted Ron. I mean, why would they? Because she's been out of her mind for what, like, when did um
About a
well,
year.
for a while, yeah, yeah. She's been, they knew there's something. It's like, okay. Well, and you know what? To be fair, I'm sure Queen Braun gave them a reason to be so loyal, but they also saw the turn in her.
Mm. Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you can see that just with the way that Dr. Tot and like the townspeople sending flowers and stuff. Like you can see that there was a history before his players get there, and like she was loved.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Like
and
in,
it's yeah, it's all the more tragic that we just don't get to see that.
mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. All right. Oh man. It's like, oh, there's so much to cover. Okay. Well, let's get to the bad guys because uh I really enjoyed this part where you asked the question, who really is the bad guy?
Mm.
Um, and I've been having this conversation lately about Final Fantasy VII, just because for those who know me, I'm a Final Fantasy VII content creator mostly. No, I'm going to start expanding, but I just had this conversation about FF7, and I like how it, like what you wrote directly reminded me of it. So, for instance, you talk about Garland, and Garland, you're not with him too long. He's a mystery for the most part, and then by the time you really get to know what's going on with him, he's dead. So
Mm.
I did not spend a lot of time thinking about him, but you mentioned in here that he is an amoral presence to you in the story, and
Hmm.
I think that is spot on. I was just having this conversation about Genova. Genova is
Mm.
not driven by you know evil desires or anything like that. She's just I was reading the Ultimania, and it just said that she's just a being that is driven to destroy. I mean, like it's kind of like sin almost.
Yeah.
It's not human motivated like things where you can attach an evil to it. She's just
Yeah.
doing what comes naturally to her. So Garland, um, let's start with Garland because
Yeah.
I think that plays into its role. You see a human, so you think, oh, he must have evil intentions, blah blah blah. But when you actually break down what he's doing and why, there really is
Mm.
no moral or immoral purpose to his actions. Yeah.
Mm. Well, I mean, it's an interesting contrast to Sin and Genova, because like they are alien creatures,
Mm-hmm.
in a similar way that you can probably consider Garland, but they're biological creatures. They are. Oh, so no, that's not fair for Sin. Sin was created by what's his face?
Yeah,
Who's
but
the
what?
grand
But
summoning thing?
he was a monster created basically to
That's what I
protect
mean. Is that
Truzak. Yeah, yeah. So
yeah,
so you
like
you can put
there's
him in
no
the creature
creation.
category. Yeah, you can put him in like the
Yeah,
creature category. Basically, it's easy to put aliens and big monster creatures in a category and say, of course it's not A, B, and C. But when you're looking at Garland, he's just like a human. I mean, he looks like one. So it's hard
yeah,
to
but again,
separate.
he's created with one purpose. When the
Mm-hmm.
Terran civilization was dying, it's like we are creating this being, Garland, to oversee us and make sure our souls don't, perish or whatever, and also to assimilate with a new planet. Like that's his only directive. Like, you exist now and you exist for one thing. Don't fuck it up. And it
Yeah.
just turns out that he's actually a really smart dude with a lot of patience. It's like, yeah, I'm assimilating me a planet, and then obviously it goes pretty badly. It's like, oh well, I guess I'm waiting 5,000 years. Well, I'll just put up some backup plans. He
Mm.
yeah, he
Yeah,
does really
absolutely.
give it the old college try, but and at no point does he really get super emotional about it either. It's just like there isn't a whole lot of feeling. Obviously, there are borderline passionate like exchanges, especially when he's in conflict with somebody.
Hmm.
But realistically, it's like no, I exist for one purpose. I'm doing that one thing, and that's it. There's nothing else to my life.
Absolutely, and it's in great contrast to how Kuja chooses to deal, because it's the same thing. Zidane, I don't put in this category because, well, as far as Garland and Kuja, even though they're all, they have the same kind of origin story,
Hmm.
because he didn't know about it, so it didn't inform his decisions. Whereas Kuja and Garland were always ever present of it, and so yeah, that's a nice contrast to Kuja, who finds out that he was only born with basically, he sees it as being Garland's puppet. Garland, Garland,
Hmm.
it was Garland, Garland's puppet, and
Garlic is the bad guy.
and Kuja chooses a slightly different path than Garland.
Yeah.
It's like Garland just had resigned himself to what he was meant to be.
Hmm.
Kuja did not, and you put a you put a great passage in here about it. I actually want to read this part real quick. So you were talking about once Kuja figured out that he was going to die. Let's see, page 137. But yeah, you were talking about how Kuja was seeking all this power the whole time, and he thought he had finally gotten his goal. Then it went a little south for him, as we know. And you said then he starts laughing like a crazy person, and you just know this means that he's seeing the tragic irony of it all. He's the butt of a cruel joke, but that's totally okay. He's just going to lie down quietly with with a paper bag over his head and wait for the end. Not.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much Kuja. Yeah, so Kuja is, and you have a lot to say about Kuja in this book, and that there is a lot to say
Mm.
about him, because you have, again, this surface level, like, oh, just this typical, kind of flamboyant. And I might flamboyant just as like a very animated, wants to be the life of the party almost type guy. You're like, okay, yeah, he's pretty easy to read originally, initially, you would think, and then you dig under the surface, and you're like, ooh, there's a lot going on there. Somebody needs
Mm.
a therapist. But you
And
get it
you have
too.
to you
Yeah.
have to really watch closely for it though, because a lot of the sort of tells come quite far, like late in the game, and a lot of the time I think it's when you're looking at Kuja, it's on the second or third run through. You're looking at him more closely, and like, yeah, you are a really interesting character
Mm-hmm.
that has, and it's like the saying goes, a good villain. Um, you can look at a good villain and be like, I see why you're doing what you're doing,
Yes.
and I can see how you don't see yourself as a villain. Like you can apply the same amoral thing to Kuja, but I'd say, I think purely because he has been told and believes that he hasn't got the emotional capability for true empathy and to really feel responsible for what he's doing, and he believes he's immortal. So it just means nothing. Nothing has any value to him.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
with
Yeah.
the one exception being, I don't want to be a little soul container for a Terran soul. I want to be my own human being, and to do that, I have to kill my dad, basically.
Yes. Oh, the daddy issues will get you every time, won't they?
Oh yeah, I mean it's wonderful, isn't it? If it's not Mummy Genova, it's Daddy Garland.
Well, and you know what? I didn't want to say it, but Sephiroth comes to mind. Like the truth, you play Crisis Core.
Yeah,
Sephiroth was born with one purpose: to kill. That's what he was born
yeah,
for. And a lot of the truth was hidden from him. He never knew that Hojo was his father, but Hojo
yeah.
orchestrated all this from the moment of
Right.
conception.
Yeah.
You know, and even
But
him going to Nibelheim that day, it was Hojo who set him up to lose his mind. So yeah, and
yeah.
with Kuja, like, to what the cruelty of it is for Garland to know all that time. And I get why Garland didn't tell him. I sure as hell wouldn't have told him if I was Garland. But the cruelty of to let Garland let him spend his entire life bending to his will, essentially.
Mm,
Even though he made, honestly, I think Garland probably figured out at some point that he was plotting against them. But I'm sure he did.
mm,
Well, we know he did, but
yeah.
I'm sure he knew longer than Kuja knew that he knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, for it, let him to spend his whole life doing all that, and then just as he thinks he's finally free, nope, you're dying.
Nice.
Sorry. I mean, because I mean, who
I was,
comes back from the dead to tell somebody that? That's basically what he did. Like his soul, he's dead, and he
yeah,
leaves, and then he's like, Kuja,
you're joining me.
yes, Kuja, I am your father, and you're going to die soon. So yeah, it's hard to when you look at it that way. Just like with Sephiroth, when you look at the whole story, I can't
Mm,
categorize them as true. They did a lot of evil things. Kuja did a lot of evil
yeah,
things, but I think that he was just set up for disaster from the beginning. And I don't know. I mean, I feel like most people, a lot of people would break one way or the other under the similar circumstances. And this is what I meant about Vivi, and I want to get your opinion on all this, of course. Vivi got the same circumstances and chose to do good with it, whereas
yeah.
Kuja chose to do bad with the same information. And that's why I said I actually don't see Zidane and Kuja as two sides of the same coin. I think a Vivi might be a better parallel, but I'm
Yeah,
curious what you think of just about Kuja in general and in this whole situation.
I think there is actually a section there that compares Vivi and Kuja,
Yeah, I
because
think
like
you do. Hmm.
yeah, and it is for that exact reason. Because I comment on the fact that Zidane supports Vivi through his sort of revelations about his short life expectancy, basically, and him coming to terms with his mortality, and then the hit that we get for Zidane finding out that he's actually an angel of death, basically destined to destroy Gaia and allow Garland to assimilate the planet. It's like he has to basically go through a lot of what Vivi's already gone through in a very small amount of time.
Hmm.
And he deals with it very poorly. He pushes all of his friends away. I'm like, no, I'm an enemy of you and everyone who lives on that planet now. Just leave me alone. Um, so, and then you've got it again at an even smaller time frame to sort of digest is Kuja when he thinks he's at the pinnacle of success. I have done what I've been trying to do for 20 years. I've finally done it. It's just like you're dying real soon. But the thing
Yeah.
is, he's in a very different place. Like Vivi and Zidane, they're not in a position of power. They're in a sort of, they're either recovering from or gearing up to do something, but they haven't got the same sort of resources that Kuja does at this point. It's just like, I have no master. I've overcome my master.
Hmm.
I have the power of the transform, because I've got my spiritual car battery, the invincible here. And just like, what do you mean I'm dying? And he, finally starts tapping into that emotional range he was basically told he didn't have, and just
Yeah.
kills a planet.
It explodes. Like, yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
he does come to a similar sort of resolution to both Zidane and Vivi. And I think this is a point of contention within the within fans of the game, is that Kuja does actually kind of get a redemption.
Yeah.
And there is that recognition of, no, he's gone through exactly what these other two characters that we've been rooting for have gone through in a shorter space of time, with basically no actual contextualizing emotional experience to handle it. But he does at the last minute sort of say, no, this is wrong,
Hmm.
and recognizes his own desires, and he sort of empathizes with the people he'd basically just been trying to kill, and goes, you know what, no, I'm dying, but that doesn't mean you have to.
Yes.
Please live.
Oh, and oh man, because I just realized like we haven't even touched Zidane, and I mean we've talked a lot about him, but all these
Yeah.
characters you could do a movie on all these characters, but yeah, that is such an emotional moment because you're absolutely right. Zidane has the actual shortest arc of like despair almost, and whereas so Vivi had all of them as sort of his support system. Zidane saw himself as a support system. It plays into what you kind of were talking about is this. You mentioned that he almost kind of has this low self esteem about himself. He's always jumping in to
Mm.
save somebody because he isn't really worried about himself in a sense. If that makes it's he is a secondary thought in his mind, and um he has this emptiness in his heart because he doesn't know where he belongs. Then when he finds out where he belongs, turns out he belongs murdering everybody that he ever loved. So,
Yeah,
but
there are some questions that maybe you shouldn't ask. Just be like, you had the talentless crew who loved you unconditionally, and it's just like not good enough. I'm afraid. You know, got the
yes.
princess basically where he wants her. Sorry, still not good enough. I'm afraid. I need to go to this other world and find out the real truth. Oh shit.
Yeah, damn it! I was better off being a thief. But yeah,
Yeah.
that is a really touching moment where Zidane, he's at the end. He's just saved the world. He could go run off with his princess,
Yeah.
his literal princess, queen, you know.
Yeah.
But he's like, I can't leave my brother. Like, because, and what I was getting to is, whereas he and Vivi had that emotional support when they needed, Kuja had
Mm.
nobody. And that part
Yeah.
always, I mean, I'm getting like kind of chills talking about it because that part
Yeah.
always stuck with me. That he was, in a way, willing to die just so that his brother wouldn't die alone, despite everything that he did to him. It's a great freaking
Yeah.
story. Ugh, I
What
can't.
a great fake out.
Yeah,
Because like the
I
game
know. Oh,
stages it, but Zidane's gone. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
because they started
yeah,
reading
that,
Vivi's letter, and the first time I saw it, I was like, is that like is
yeah,
that Garnet talking about Zidane? I didn't know what was going.
yeah.
I bawled my eyes
It's
out. Bawled my
mm,
eyes out. I thought Zidane was dead. I was like, oh god, I can't do this. I already lost Vivi. Yeah, it's a great fake out. Oh man, I couldn't
yeah.
even enjoy the ending
Oh,
the first time because I was so upset.
mm,
It took me a couple days to be like, okay, that was a good ending.
yeah.
What did you think when you
I'm
first
ready to
saw
go
it?
again.
I know, me too. Yeah, so let's end, I guess, talking about Zidane for a little bit, and then we can wrap it up. So, when you think of Zidane, and as you think about what you wrote about in this book, what were
Mm.
just some things that stuck out to you about him specifically as a hero in this game? And just any thoughts you had about him specifically that we haven't covered.
I mean, I just like how different he is as a main character for a mainline Final Fantasy game than like so many characters that came before him and even after. I mean, you can draw some comparison lines with Tidus, but realistically, it's like no, he's just the opposite of like Cloud and Squall.
Yes.
He's just like the thing is he still has that real complexity, but it's less great. Like I like Cloud and I like Squall. I like them both as characters, but they have that immediate in your face like moodiness, that sort of antisocial quality
Mm-hmm.
that you know it's like no, I do everything. I'm a loner. I do things my way. I do them myself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need um, you know connections to other people. I don't need help. Whereas Zidane is like he doesn't so much ask for help, but he's always offering it. He's not the unwilling hero. He is the in your face. Yeah, I'm here, and it's like if I can't date you, can I rescue you, or steal something from you? Because also I'm a thief.
Like one way or the other, I'm gonna get your attention. That's what,
Exactly,
he's an
and
attention
like it's
seeker. Yeah, whereas the others aren't looking for attention, but and not in a bad way. But yeah, he wants people to know, hey,
yeah,
I'm here. I'm amazing.
yeah, exactly. From the get go, you're like, this is a different kind of protagonist. This is a different kind of hero. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it doesn't take too long to start getting into like who this guy is, and it's just like he has insecurities. Like he's a flirt, but like he flirts with literally every woman he meets. Until Garnet starts giving him shit for it. It's just like, oh yeah, I should probably maybe dial that back. But you know, the as soon as it gets to the coronation, you start to see really explicitly. It's just like, no, like I've lost the only edge I had for staying in her company. There's no way she'd even want to give me the time of day. Like I've stopped being useful. I'm not worth anything. And he is so depressed. He goes
Oh no.
completely 180 to his normal personality. And it isn't just being heartbroken. He genuinely believes that he's not worth the time of day.
Oh.
And like you see it again in Pandemonium, it's just like, oh, this validates all of my insecurities. It validates this feeling that there's a reason that I don't have a home, that I have never really felt settled. And it's because I am this piece of shit that's meant to end a planet. I don't deserve the friends that I have, and they're just too stupid to realize it. So he literally calls them out, saying, "You're idiots. You're in my way. Get out of the way. Leave me alone."
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it is just so interesting to see so much complexity and so much like inner strife under this really cheery like persona that we're introduced to. Like it's a wild ride,
Yeah.
especially next to like Garnet and BB, who are going through their own struggles that are really different, but have plenty of crossovers as we've discussed.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, yeah, Zidane really sticks out as a main character to me. Like not just in Final Fantasy, but generally
In
in video
general,
games.
I agree.
Yeah,
I
like
agree.
we've subsequently had Zach, who is at least he's sort of edging that way. I don't
Yeah.
think Zach has the quite the same. Like I feel bad saying that because I'm a big fan of Zach, but he doesn't have
I think
that
there's
same
more.
complex underneath.
Um, yeah, they are similar, but definitely not the same. I wouldn't say that. It's definitely
No,
not a 1-to-1. But yeah, Zidane, whatever. uh,
yeah, Zidane.
you know what I think I think Garland's what was his downfall, and this kind of
Mm,
also this is about Zidane at least. He
mm,
allowed Zidane to be human. With
yeah,
Kuja, he was always right over Kuja, hovering over Kuja. Zidane never had any idea who he was, and I think even though he was just supposed to be a soulless doll too, um, he it shows the power of love, and I mean when you think of Melodies of Life, when you just think about all these characters' relationships, love at the end of the day is what changes them. And that's what
mm.
Kuja lacked. That's what Garland lacked.
That's what got.
You know?
Well, that's the really interesting thing is because like Zidane, Kuja, and Mikoto are the only genomes that were given a soul at creation. So Kuja does have a soul.
Well, yeah, they have a soul.
At the
Sorry, but
same
I
time,
mean, but he ultimately is
the,
supposed to
the,
just be, a weapon of war. But he gave him a soul, and he gave him an opportunity to be loved. I guess is what I'm trying to say. Kuja had no such
yeah,
opportunity.
like from a really technical standpoint, it's just like no, Garland built him so he couldn't actually process emotion.
Yeah,
Like he had the resources. I was like, I
that's true.
fucked up with you. I fucked up with you.
Yeah, and yeah, I guess twofold, give him the soul and just leaving him be. It's just
and
it.
that
Mm, mm,
and that there's the irony just continues. It's just like I'll give Zidane the the full capabilities to be basically human and give him that emotional range and that that ability for compassion,
mm.
intentionally or not. And Kuja's like, I don't feel anything, do I? I'm pretty pissed off about this. I'm going to boot him off a planet.
You know what? Kuja just proves like the other side of love is hate because
Yeah,
he only had reasons to hate. He clearly always had emotion. He just had the wrong
yeah.
ones, really.
What makes you wonder about Mikoto because like Garland's watching this is like, right, okay, emotions are kind of hard to program. But he does
Hmm.
something with Mikoto. It's like she seems stable, but she
Yeah.
also doesn't ask questions.
And there was one part where you mentioned Makoto to end on this. We're done.
Mm,
You mentioned
yeah,
Makoto and them almost seeing Kuja as a hero. I thought that
yeah,
was interesting. Can you go more on that? Because it's probably just something I forgot. Like I said, it's been two 2 years since I played it. Life has
yeah.
happened.
That's fair. Like as I said, like Kuja getting any kind of redemption is kind of like a point of contention when you're discussing Final Fantasy IX with somebody. Like you either can kind of see it or you're like, no, this was Kuja was a piece of shit. Like he should just be he was the bad guy. But like when you're like in the build up to that final scene at the end of the game, like you have this little cutaway to Mikoto, who's at the ether tree, and she's literally talking like about Kuja or to Kuja,
Hmm.
and basically saying, we as genomes, we understood what you were doing, and we don't hate you. We don't want you to be forgotten, and we want you to know that you'll be remembered and respected. And it like the very it's not very far beneath the surface of what she's saying. It's basically like we recognize you just wanted freedom. It was something that we didn't even have the ability to think about. But
Hmm.
now that we do, and we're actually thinking, and Mikoto definitely did, but the other genomes now that they're in that weird state where it's like, do they sort of get their own souls? Do they start actually living and developing personalities, whatever? Like they're at least communing with other, with the black mages. They're actually a bit given the ability to think, and they are thinking about Kutra. And it's like, no, we don't see him as the guy who destroyed Terror. It's like, no, you were the guy who railed against fate.
Yeah, and freed
And
them. I mean, it was because of him
essentially, yeah,
destroying Terra that they were able to come to Gaia and live. Yeah, so
yeah,
it just it brings up all these questions of morality and what. Yeah, it gives you all these different perspectives because that is a great point because to the people of Gaia he was a he was a terrorist,
mm,
but to his own people it's like I get it. I really love that. That was one part of your book that um, I
yeah,
wasn't sure I'd have the chance to talk about, but yeah, I like that a lot. Oh man, it's just
mm.
what you want
Like
in a
yeah,
video game is to have to think. You want to play it again, and every time you play it, something else sticks out to you, and or you hear somebody
yeah,
else's perspective, and that's why I wanted people to read your book, as I said, because even if you think you know everything about Final Fantasy 7, and this isn't not 7, sorry, 9. It's not about knowing about everything with Final Fantasy 9, but it's a game where hearing different perspectives, you know, and a lot of it is no right or wrong, but you can
mm,
gain you can gain your own thoughts and conclusions, and they evolve based on just talking to someone else and seeing what they gathered out of the same game. That's a video
yeah,
game. You know what I mean? That's why I've been a Final Fantasy fan since since I first played 9. It's just one of those
mm,
books. It's one of those games you never forget. Yeah.
for sure, yeah,
Yeah.
right,
Whew, all right. We have been having a great discussion. Again, I could talk to you all day about this, but
we could,
fortunately,
yeah.
yeah, we're gonna have to go. But really appreciate it. Why don't you tell us, you know, if you got anything else going on? I'd definitely like you to talk about any of your, like any other books people might be interested in. For instance, Kingdom Hearts. A lot of big Kingdom Hearts people in the in the Final Fantasy fandom. So, yeah, anything
That's
you'd like to
true.
tell us, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a really good time hanging out. I'm amazed. Like it feels like we've talked about a lot, but I know that we've really just grabbed tiny little sections and sort of like meandered our way through like say about a third of content there. Like it's yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
wild. Like in terms of my other projects, like I only have one other book out at the moment. That's Simple and Clean: Unlocking Kingdom Hearts, which ironically I think is a 550-page tome, but similarly goes into 20 years of Kingdom Hearts history, full chronological plot, and assessing character arcs, character psychology, gender identity, things like that.
Mm.
You can find that on my Amazon page with Melodies of Life, and have a look at it. Yeah, it's a if you like reading about video games and applying like literary theory and like elements of like philosophy and psychology to video game stories, then that's basically what I'm doing um, with these books. I'd like to say that I have something on the way. I do kind of have a few things blueprinted and some notes, but nothing in the immediate future. Maybe early next year there might be something else, but too early to say yet. I need to focus on which project I'm dealing with because I can't. I'm really not going to be
Absolutely.
able to do both at the same time.
Absolutely, I understand. And something like this, you know, it takes a lot of planning and foresight and going through your own thoughts about
Mm.
it. Because even as I'm making videos, I'm like, okay, I can't veer off to 90 topics. I got to stick to one topic. Like, and I will say to the audience, yeah, very well. Um, I just love the organization in the book, and it flows really well. You don't feel like you're jumping subjects necessarily. Like some books you're like, okay, wait, whoa, I was here too, now here, what's going on? I think it flows really well. You keep the reader engaged. Uh,
Mm.
it's definitely a book you could start. Okay, I'm just going to read a couple pages, and then next thing you know, you're at the end of the book. You're like, wait a second, what happened? Kind of like,
That's, that,
and
that was the fun trick of putting it together. Is like it's not only like that three-headed dragon meme where you've got the two mean ones and then the one at the end that looks derpy. It's just like I talk like that, but I can write and think like the other two when I put my mind to it. Like putting this
absolutely.
book together, but like also like like really fine tuning it. So like the chapters are really short and they're in short burst sections, so you can like digest it, you know, very quickly and very easily. It's like, okay, I've only got like 5-10 minutes to sit down. I want to read a bit of this. You can read a section in that time.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
also you can just get like you can just be looking at him like, oh, the next section, I've got another break in like 2, 3, 4 pages. Yeah, I'll just read that. I'll read that. Like
Yes.
it's very Moorish,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
put, just trying to bottle that and repeat.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was quite a feat because, like you were just saying, we probably feel like we've covered a ton of topics, and then we'll watch this again like, oh, we barely covered anything, did we?
Yeah, we didn't even get onto nihilism, did we?
I know. And there's always so much. So hey, maybe we can do this again sometime. I am always
Yeah,
up for
sure
talking
thing.
about Final Fantasy IX. But yeah, all right. Well, audience, I really appreciate y'all. Please again check out his book. Very affordable, readable, and definitely a collector's if you ask me. So thank you so much, Jamie, for joining us, and I'll see y'all later.
See ya.